YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, recapping Sunday's action from NFL Week 5. A lot of wild games. We're going to break them down, give you my takeaways real quick here. Try to make this video shorter, ends up real long, even though I say that every single week. We still got a couple games left here this week. We'll be talking live on Twitter, giving you my thoughts, play-by-play, and my takeaways on those games. So some big games. You're going to want to follow that Twitter, constantly talking NFL on there. We have an Instagram. We have a podcast. We have a Patreon. A lot going on. You'll find a link in the description and comments for anything that you see on the screen there. I'll be much appreciated if you can help us out. Subscribe. Trying to reach 60K. Power rankings every single week. That'll be pushed back a day because of the Tuesday night game. We'll keep you updated on the Twitter on when the picks video is going to be up, the score predictions. We got all kinds of content. So the Tuesday night game shifts things around a little bit, but we still got you covered here. Patreon has that extra content. Like I said, a lot of extra content, always adding more will be added as well. Junior score predictions, my lock/bets of the week, been doing pretty darn well on those. And then we've added Upset Watch, taking all the NFL underdogs, giving you a percentage they have to win the game. Maybe if you want to play some money line bet. College football score predictions also added against the spread and money line picks for college football. Updated playoff predictions will start very, very soon, and we'll update those every week. So Patreon members will get to see what I'm thinking for the playoffs and round by round throughout the playoffs very soon here in the NFL season. Bonus content, Discord access, again, always adding more. Falcons and Panthers. The Falcons lose. We talked about it during the week. This is the last shot for Dan Quinn. If they lose, he's got to be gone. This is the game. You know, they had a short week after the Packers game. The Packers are also maybe the best team in football right now, so you can't really fire him off that, even though he probably already should have been gone. So this is it. Division rival. You in your mind, you believe that you're better than the Panthers. You're home against the Panthers. It's a must-win, and they lose. So he's gone as expected. Dimitroff is gone as well. He has not been drafting well. He's been overspending on some positions, you know, and kind of not really focusing on the future, just focusing on the now on one side of the ball. You know, obviously overspending as well. So, yeah, he needed to go. Bring in some fresh people here, some new people. I'll be interviewing for the job. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, they got to draft better. They got to start drafting for the future here. Yeah, but moving on to the game, actually starts off, you know, a little slow, almost like a defensive game. It ends up almost like a defensive game here. You know, but the Panthers do enough. I did pick the Panthers in this game, but I thought there'd be much more scoring. I thought they would probably hit the over, but I was a little cautious with that one for sure. But yeah, the Panthers starting to. This felt like a Todd Gurley game again. Felt like the two weeks in a row now, Todd Gurley type of game. And early, it felt like the Panthers could win this game just because you know how they were running the ball. You know, the poor tackling on the Panthers' part. When the Panthers got things going, Teddy's been fantastic. You know, I didn't have too many crazy plays this week. Maybe you expect a little more, but he's been great. You know, the pocket movement, like I've been saying. Getting outside the pocket at the right time, being able to move, throw on the run. He's been extremely accurate. I mean, 70% completion percentage is ridiculous, and it's really not a surprise. We saw that at Louisville. That's why I was very high on him. We saw that in Minnesota, breaking records for a young player on completion percentage. So we're seeing that again. It's been fantastic. Man, though, I got to credit the offensive line of the Panthers. It's really not supposed to be this good. It's been playing fantastic, protecting the quarterback and run blocking. Mike Davis has been playing ridiculous. Tough dude. It's surprising that because we know he's a tough runner. It's surprising how involved he gets in the passing game. But in this system, maybe it's not that hard for somebody to become a pretty good running back in the passing game. But yeah, he got a lot of credit goes to him. We felt like, especially in our fantasy video, we felt like DJ Moore can go off in this game, and it felt like he did. You know, he had that one big play. That was a ridiculous play. There from him. You know, he was absolutely cruising on that play. You see it looked like 4.2 speed. Upper body didn't look like he was even running that hard, but the legs were, moving at full speed there. That was ridiculous. Poor defense for the Falcons. The Falcons, and I credit the Panthers offensive line. The Falcons pass rush just really couldn't get things going. They just really couldn't get anything, and certainly not surprising. There's just not enough on that Falcons defense. Looking at the Panthers side, Brian Burns has really been standing out last couple weeks. The sacks are going to start to show more and more. I think he got one in this game, but the way he's getting pressure, his moves off the line, against the tackles, it's a guy of the future here. He's going to be racking up a lot of production here. So I've been very impressed with him. Panthers get the job done. Looked like the Falcons they had a chance to come back. Matt Ryan, they're moving down there, and he throws the ball pretty much directly to the defensive back there. And that hurt them. So you see Matt Ryan continues to what looks like decline, especially the way he played the last couple of years, or you look at a couple of years ago where he's the MVP, the best player in football that year. So you just can't have that turnover. That's a game-changing play. It's a terrible throw. Gurley was working. You kind of went away from it, and that hurt them. They actually had a shot to win the game. They had a shot to win the game there. But the Panthers hold on. That's 3 straight for the Panthers without McCaffrey. Obviously, they are better with McCaffrey, but this is wild. Excellent coaching, excellent game plan, play calls. Teddy Bridgewater's been excellent. Mike Davis has been excellent. The offensive line's been excellent. Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore have been excellent. Bryant Burns, Derek Brown looks like the rookie. He is who he thought he was, as a rookie. A reason why this defense on paper is really supposed to be at the bottom. It's supposed to be at the bottom of the NFL here. But I kind of have a theory, and I kind of talked about this the last couple of years, on why it's better than expected. And I think it's because it's young. I mean, they got a college defensive coordinator as well. And I've been talking about this, that the old school defensive coordinators that were so great for so long, they're starting to decline. Why? Because offenses are changing. They're faster. They're more athletic, but they're more of that college system. They're bringing those plays over. They're even bringing those coaches over. And these defense coordinators are so used to what they've been going against for years and years and years that this is all new to them. And even the veteran players on defense, they're so used to what they've been seeing. This is all new to them. So the young players are, used to going against these high-powered, fast offenses, and I guess the defense, the coaching is kind of used to it as well. So that actually could be a reason why they are playing a little better than expected there. So Panthers, very impressive. Moving on to the next game. The Raiders, man. The Raiders with a big game. This is impressive. 40 points, 40-32. They beat the Chiefs, the top team on my power rankings. Remember, my power rankings are really adjusted by week, how teams are playing, how the resume is shaping up. So we're going to see some big changes there at the top, really, with number 1 going down. Who can climb to number 1? Power rankings, again, will probably be earlier on Wednesday because the schedule shift in the NFL. But the Raiders in Kansas City, that is a huge win there. That's a tough loss for the Chiefs. Back and forth, right off the bat, it's looking like that shootout we expect it's going to be. And it's back and forth. And then the Raiders just even though they have, Derek Carr kind of had that bad interception at one point, it felt like that was going to be the turning point where the Chiefs really can take control. And they had control there. Maybe not enough of it. Well, obviously not enough of it, and the Raiders just continue to play. The defense gave up 32 points, but they really stepped up in right moments. They got that pick late on Mahomes, a bad throw by Mahomes. That was huge. But getting Henry Ruggs back, it was just, we see how good these rookie receivers are. We see why we are all hyping it up and how they can be that good, that much of an impact right away. Henry Ruggs was the first one to go. That speed. Just being the threat, I think just spreading out. You see what Tyreek Hill does with the Chiefs, that spreads out the field. And on his touchdown run, I really don't think he was even running full speed. That's how fast that guy is. He torched that defense, and that was huge. Derek Carr, minus the interception, fantastic. The ball placement, the touch on the ball, those deep touch passes, it reminds me of Tom Brady and Drew Brees. What they've kind of been known for is in most of their career is those elite touch passes, and we see that from Derek Carr. And you got to credit the Raiders. You got to credit Mike Mayock, Gruden, just kind of completing this team, putting together the offensive line. See, they value it as you should, getting that together for Derek Carr. But let's go back to what I was saying all along in the offseason about the Raiders. How many times did I say it? I like this team because it's so complete. It is so complete, but do they have those takeover guys? We know they have really good guys. Josh Jacobs could be a game-changing running back, but in the right spots, those really valuable impact spots, do they have the takeover guys to win it? It's exactly what we saw in this game. We saw the completeness, like I said, in the offseason. I think every level their team, including their defense, which was kind of surprising, even though they scored 32. I really think if you watch this game, you know what I mean. I think the completeness throughout their roster showed up at the same time today. That was fantastic because you see all these other teams that are pretty complete, or maybe they're not complete. And really, it's really hard to get everybody on the same page, everybody clicking on all cylinders. The Raiders did that in this game, and that's kind of what we talked about in the offseason, the completeness of the team could be great, but do they have those takeover guys? And that's what they added to this game. Josh Jacobs ran pretty well, kind of closed the game out at the end, having the Chiefs on their toes with Jacobs. And for the passing game is huge. Derek Carr, again, made those crazy passes. He was that major impact player. Henry Ruggs, who they added in the draft, obviously. Darren Waller, they had these take-over impact players while being a complete team, having a complete performance. The defense was pretty locked down in coverage. I didn't really think they were going to be able to handle the speed, and at times they really couldn't, but that's just the matchup. But they Raiders look good this year. They're coming off they're coming off a 2-game losing streak, but what did we say about those games? We all picked against the Raiders in those games. Against the Patriots there and against the Bills. And the reason we did is because of matchup. Not really necessarily saying the Raiders aren't as good as those teams, because you got to be able to compete against all 31 if we're talking about a team here. It was just a bad matchup, and that happens. That happens. So, and now this really isn't a bad matchup. They're just playing a really good team. That's all it was, a team that's supposed to be better than them, and they beat them. So I don't think the Patriots and Bills are a pretty rough matchup, so maybe that hurts them in the long run if they got to see them again. Not that they can't beat them, but this is a really good sign. They pretty much lost the last 2 weeks, not because they're not a good team. It's because it's a weird matchup, and they show they can play with the best and beat the best here, and they figure out a way around the matchup. Gruden game plan for this very, very well here. But that's kind of the storyline for the game for me, is they showed up as a team. The completeness of the team showed up. They were good at pretty much in every way. Everyone showed up at the same time, and those takeover guys took over the game when they needed to, and that's a good team right there. That's a good coaching staff. That's a good team. The Chiefs, I would have liked for them to run the ball a little more. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, can't even say it right now, talking too fast, he was running pretty well. Running really well, and I think they became too obvious that they were passing. It's a pass-first team, let's be honest here, and it should be. But I think it became too obvious. The Raiders were able to adjust to that and play better down the stretch, which kind of made those stops to help them take over. Their offense continue to do their job. I would have liked them to run the ball a little more, really not because it was working. That's a big part of it. But because it would have kept them on their toes, opened things up in the passing game. They became predictable, and that's my number one rule about. And I'm not worried about the Chiefs' offense, their play calling. I'm not worried at all. It's fantastic, but that is the number one rule for me, at least, on calling an offense, being an offense, is be unpredictable. Defense is a guessing game. The offense really should beat the defense every single time. It is so hard to play defense, especially in today's game. So be unpredictable. They weren't too unpredictable. They were pretty predictable in this game down the stretch. But it's really not, they did enough to win the game still. Defense wasn't too great. There's something else I want to bring up about the Raiders too. But I got to mention, he's not the best corner in football. But Bashaud Breeland, I love Bashaud Breeland's game. He's such a physical corner. There's really a lack of him in today's NFL. He's not afraid to come up and hit. He will hit you. He can tackle. He's physical. He plays a lot of press man. That's one of the hardest things to do in football. Might be specifically the hardest thing to do in football. So I think Breeland's quite underrated. I think he'll get beat from time to time. But I really respect his game. So I want to put that out there. But the Raiders getting pass rush, and that kind of goes in. They played a complete game. Everything worked. The pass rush has actually been a little underwhelming at times. Crosby's shown up at times. Arden Key's got some pressure here and there. But they got pressure. I think they sacked Mahomes 3 times, which is actually, it doesn't sound like a crazy good number, but against Mahomes, against his offensive line, it's really, really good. But the pressure, they were getting pressure, making Mahomes, and Mahomes was still making sensational plays off of pressure. But that was a big factor. Teams have not been able to get that good pressure on Mahomes and get to him. And somehow the Raiders did it in this game. Crosby, I don't know if the stats will show it, but he had he's a disruptor. That's usually what he does. He's a big-time player. Wachowski, I think, those linebackers look pretty good. It's just all on every phase. They looked really good. So very impressed with the Raiders at 40 points in the Chiefs division rival in Kansas City. That's the main part there. That's huge. They get to play them again, but that one's going to be at home. Can't wait for that. Cardinals and Jets. I don't have too much on this game. I thought it would be a lot closer than it was because the Cardinals have been struggling. The Jets have the game plan factor, a new quarterback in. Flacco didn't really play that bad. Yeah, he obviously didn't do enough. That's kind of the storyline. The Jets just don't have enough. And it just goes, I know they have a lot of injuries, but that just goes back to my evaluation in the offseason. They just don't have enough. This roster isn't as good as some people thought. It's just not. Flacco played all right. Le'Veon Bell played fine. They couldn't give him the ball enough. They probably could have given him the ball more earlier. They did a fullback dive to their tight end, who does have experience at fullback, West Virginia. But Just stupid, pure stupidity. Le'Veon Bell would have got that, and now you're on fourth down. Now the whole world know they're running the ball to the running back. Just pure stupidity. Gase needed to go before he was even hired, if that makes any sense at all. But it's accurate. We're gonna allow that statement. But Crowder played good. Herndon sucks. They had guys that you expect to play pretty well because they're good players, and they played pretty well. There's just not enough. The defense, I think, is well coached. Crazy, even though he's under Gase, Greg Williams. But I guess it really doesn't matter. But they just don't have enough. It's Quinnen Williams and it's Quinnen Williams. I don't know. There's just not enough. They have not built. And you can bash the coaching all you want, and Gase should not have never been hired in the first place, but they just have not found talent. You win championships. You build championship teams through the draft. They have not done that. There's been some picks here and there that I've actually liked, but mainly they've missed. They've missed, and that's really the difference. Like I said, a couple players played all right. Nobody played. Crowder, I'd say Crowder was borderline fantastic. Nobody played fantastic besides that. But the Cardinals are out. The Cardinals are a better team, plain and simple. For the Cardinals, though, it's good to get the momentum back. Game you should win. You won in dominant fashion, I suppose. But still worried on some levels here for the Cardinals. Look, kind of some similarities of what we saw the last couple weeks. It kind of took for them to get going some Murray runs, which is okay because that's part of their game. But receivers aren't doing the best job getting open besides Hopkins. The running game's not that great. Edmonds can be explosive here and there. We can see the slight takeover. I was kind of talking about last week that he could kind of be taken over in that, I guess, leading the way for the running back group. We'll see if he surpasses or passes up Kenyon Drake. But they might not have enough. Again, the separation's kind of an issue. It just kind of takes Murray to kind of get going. It's just. They scored 30 points. After Murray got running, he got going. That kind of set the tone, the momentum, and they got going. They only allowed 10 points, but that's kind of what they should do in this game. Chandler Jones got hurt, so that wasn't too great, obviously. It's a team that it's young, it's fast, explosive. It's not the easiest game plan, but another one where you question, do they have enough? Are they ready yet? They're still a little bit lacking in some spots, but it's good momentum changer here. It's good to after a 2-game losing streak to get this win. So that's really my takeaway. Not too much there. Eagles and Steelers, wild game. Chase Claypool, man, that's my guy right there. What a game for Chase Claypool. Really excited for that. Guy's an absolute stud. Every part of a game receiver he has. And you see the weapons that the Steelers have. Even Ray McLeod there too. Unlimited weapons. Running back, receiver, different varieties of plays. Big Ben's playing well. It's an open offense. It's open. It is, in a way, like the Chiefs, how spread, how open it is, how much different things you can do. You're keeping the defense on your toes. It's similar in that way, and that's a big reason why they're undefeated. So, fantastic game for those playmakers for the Steelers, spreading out. But, man, Claypool, you got to get excited about that. I love me some Chase Claypool. Big-time game. He had a touchdown taken away from him, too. That was that was probably the best one of the day, and that was a bad offensive pass interference call. This game I thought wasn't officiated too well. The first 4 weeks in the NFL, maybe officiating was okay. They're kind of letting the guys play, and now it feels like they're at times. I don't know. It feels like they're contradicting themselves. They're very inconsistent with their calls here. Not the best officiated game, but it's whatever. I guess at the end of the day here, pretty exciting game. Looking at the Eagles, they got some offense going on. What I thought was the best defensive football, I still may say it is. But kind of going back to the offseason, I talked about this front seven's really good. This pass rush is really good. The D line is really good, and this is why it's a top defense. Well, I was hesitant to put them on the top. I was never really sold on their secondary. If you remember, I've been talking about that for some time. They're good. It's a good secondary. I think the front seven makes them look way better than they are. You can beat these guys at times, and we kind of saw that in this game. They were getting beat by receivers that they really shouldn't get beat by. Travis Fulgham looked like he was legit. He had a really good game. Some good balls to him, but just body control and making the grabs. Lions drafted him. They kind of let him go. He didn't make the Packers team, so that's surprising. He looks like he's actually pretty solid. But yeah, Hilton was getting beat quite a bit. He's had a pretty good season this year. Edmonds in coverage was kind of a disaster. Hayden was getting beat here and there. He was making plays, though. It's purely knowledge when he makes the plays, instincts. But yeah, because you can see he lost step, he can get beat. But yeah, the front seven really carries the load. I mean, look at what T.J. Watt, what Bud Dupree's done. Fantastic game. Stephon Tuitt, the two Notre Dame guys, Chase Claypool and Stephon Tuitt, huge games. Tuitt, we knew he's really good as long as he's healthy. So that front seven is playing ridiculous. Getting after Wentz could be a factor. Some sacks on Wentz. Wentz, we've seen the highs and lows in this game. Started off, taking a sack. Turn the ball over. Then all of a sudden he was really good. Used his legs, throw the ball on the run. Some good plays some good throws to Travis Fulgham. And then he kind of went, like, okay, Wentz, here we go. But then it kind of went back downhill there with some off-target throws. Hightower did drop a touchdown. It's not the easiest catch in the world, but he should catch that. He was a deep ball specialist at Boise, very good at tracking the ball. So that was kind of surprising. He did track it correctly. He just got to catch the ball. So that was unfortunate there, but guys like Fulgham, Ward stepping up. Again, Wentz was very hot, very, very cold at times. So still, worried about that. Jalen Hurts completed a pass. Some people are probably still calling for him, but Wentz is definitely the better guy. But you never know. Wentz is struggling right now. Sanders had that huge run. Other than that, not too much. It was surprising that the Steelers kind of let that happen, but it happens here and there. Defense seems harder to play in today's NFL. But that happens. But it's surprising to see. But and like I said, that was pretty much the only thing Sanders did, really. But he didn't get that many more chances to do more of that. Not enough carries, maybe. And we kind of put that on Peterson to get him a couple weeks ago, get him the ball more. You could have won the game. Bengals game specifically, I'm talking about. And this one, I don't know if you could. I don't know if I really blame him. I mean, he could have done more, could have had more explosive plays if he got the ball more. But they were playing from behind quite a bit here. So kind of on the fence about that one. Eagles scoring points, kind of impressive. Steelers, just a better team there on both sides of the ball. Claypool, beastly game there. Front seven for the Steelers, heck of a game. Eagles, it's weird seeing them, with injuries and poor play from spots you don't expect. Poor play, it's putting them towards the bottom here, and it's wild. It's wild there. So, big win for the Steelers. They stay undefeated. And teams have a chance to climb up those power rankings. Can't wait to see what happens here in the next couple games. What we got in the power rankings on Wednesday. Rams and Washington. Rams just the better team here. I've been impressed with Jared Goff. He had but one bad interception this game, but been pretty impressed with him. But I'm really impressed with the offensive line. It's in no way a great offensive line, but we expected almost the worst in football, kind of down there. And it hasn't really been that yet. Will it hold up? Because we've seen that specifically from the Rams, but we've seen that from a lot of offensive lines in the past. Usually offensive lines start to, the bad ones or the mediocre ones start to, as the season goes on, go down a little bit. I don't know if it's where or people can figure them out, game plan for them, but that seems to be a trend. The good ones kind of stay the same or even get better. So we'll see if they can hold up, but they've been impressive. I guess the scheme and footwork of the offensive lineman play in general looks improved. So I'm not really going to sit here and predict that it's going to go down to what we expected before the year. It looks improved. Again, it's not a great offense line, but it looks way better than what we expected. So got to give credit to them. Sean McVay, it's almost like McDaniels, Belichick. You just don't know what to expect from this guy. Who's going to play? 1 week it's Malcolm Brown, then now it's more of a Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers. You can see they like Cam Akers. They're going to try to get him back rolling. So people that have one of those running backs, maybe it's not really good because you don't know what to expect. But it seemed like Henderson was a featured guy. Didn't run extremely well. Akers, I think, ended up having more yards on less carries. Woods played a pretty good game. Again, I mainly want to credit the offensive line with that. They had a play earlier, that wheel route. They send Robert Woods in motion. Almost looks like it could be an end-around type play, but then the defense sees it's not that. It's a wheel route downfield. I mean, that's McVay. That is a perfect play for that scenario. Maybe there's a little bit of luck involved, just guessing. But Washington was in cover 2 there. Cover 2, the corners come up, they get the flats. Basically, the 5 to 7 yards, or the deepest would be 7 yards, but anything in front on the outside, the corners have that. The safeties have deep halves. We know Landon Collins really isn't a deep cover guy. We know that. He's not terrible, but that's not his strength at all. He's really good in the box. I don't really think he's that great of a safety. He's a really good box player. But that was the call. Ron Rivera is really known for his zone coverage. Defense is really known for that. So there's the cover 2, zone coverage there. So Landon Collins drops back. Van Jefferson already aligned on the left side. Robert Woods comes around, and he took Van Jefferson, that is, took Landon Collins in his coverage. Landon Collins got deep half, so he's kind of locked on him. Robert Woods, which really isn't a big focus for Landon Collins because he's not on that side yet, and Van Jefferson comes around, wheels up the sideline. Technically, Landon Collins has both those guys. The corner, it's a very, very hard job, but the corner, is supposed to kind of leave that, recognize it, go back, but it's one of the harder jobs in football. It really is. So basically, Landon Collins had two guys there, but just the design of the play to throw him off, and it's an impossible play there, just too good, and that's why that went for 6. So that really stood out to me, just a beautifully designed play, but just mainly perfect for that scenario. So that really stood out. Kyle Allen goes down. Alex Smith comes in. Everyone was kind of calling for this, predicting this, but it was still very, very unlikely. It happened. It happened. And did they call that flag on Ramsey, I think, on that Kyle Allen hit? I don't agree with that. It looked like Kyle Allen put his head down. It was a good play by Ramsey. But Alex Smith comes in, and it's good to see him come in. It's good to see him moving better than expected. It was kind of a mess since then. The offensive line kind of let him down, but the Rams, I give credit to the Rams. They attacked it. They knew that was going to be a problem for them. And they kind of attacked the interior and got pressure. So I credit the Rams for not letting up or anything, which I don't expect them to. Aaron Donald just went full Aaron Donald, full beast mode after that. He had 4 sacks. I mean, ridiculous. And he helps the pressure. Seeing Dante Fowler, how successful he was last year, really good season. Now he's struggling with the Falcons. But I think Aaron Donald just creates that for the guy. Troy Reeder had 3 sacks. Ridiculous. They were getting ridiculous interior pressure. This is a well-coached defense, better than expected. Secondary's good. They have the pass rush. It's looking really good. Alex Smith really had no chance. Offensive line let him down. Just really couldn't get anything going. I think Kyle Allen will be the guy if he's healthy going forward. So it's a good win for the Rams as expected, though. This game went as expected. If you heard me talking about this all week, it went pretty much as expected. I thought the Bengals scored more than 3 points, so that's impressive by the Ravens. But I told you that the Ravens were going to blitz the absolute doom, is how I put it, out of Joe Burrow and the Bengals, and that is exactly what they did. Interior pressure is how you beat. It's really, if you can get it, it's how you beat most quarterbacks, really all of them. I think interior pressure is the most game-changing part of a defense. But they brought it with the blitz. And then they started throwing some outside blitz as well, started blitzing corners. I mean, corners got some sacks after they really got going. They really got in Joe Burrow's head. It kind of went to planned here. They had 7 sacks. I want to say 6 or 7. I'll have to go back and look. At least 6 were on blitzes. Ridiculous. So that's going to throw Burrow off. Something new. He hasn't really seen blitzes like that probably ever. Martindale is the blitz wizard. It failed against a guy like Mahomes, a little bit different offensive line and a little different quarterback at their stage of the career. But it's definitely going to work in a game like this. Division rival game, must-win game at home. That was really the factor here. I mean, they made some big-time plays. They got the sacks when they needed to. Joe Burrow can move. He can escape. So it's good to finish those plays. And that just pressure creates bad decisions by quarterbacks, or especially if you're losing, it's almost like, what the hell? I got to throw the ball, make a play, or try to escape the sack. I'm not giving up, not going down, and some bad plays were made. There was some fumbles, but you can't really get on Burrow too much for that. For like I said, you got to try to make the plays at that point. Patrick Queen, got to be the defensive rookie of the week. I mean, he was all over the place. Just a perfect guy for Martindale's scheme. I just love that fit there. And he's a guy that's a little raw of a prospect, too, because he hasn't had too much experience in his career. First year starting last year at LSU, he came in as a running back. They switched him. And early in the year last year, his tape really wasn't that great, even against weak competition. It was he kind of just showed up at the end in the big moments, which was great. But he fits so perfect in this defense. He's got a good sporting cast that he is just working out. Talk about a fit that just works out right away. So a raw prospect working out right away, playing that high level, going for that defensive rookie of the year. Very impressive. Made some big-time plays. Yeah, there really isn't too much, Ravens took care of business there. I wasn't really thrilled, honestly, with Hollywood Brown's plays. I think he led in receiving yards, but I think he dropped the touchdown. There was another play. I try to remember everything from every game because I've seen moments for every game. But he had some moments where I thought he could have done a little more, I guess we'll put it. Not like a bad game but at all, but he could get a little more though. I think they need another number 1 receiver to pair with him for that. I've been talking about that. But they made some big plays. Lamar had that bad interception, but They did enough offensively, but offense hasn't really been too impressive. I mean, pretty impressive. You expect more, I guess. So a little underwhelming, but not a bad thing. But they take care of business. What I expected from this game kind of happened here, and that was the difference in this one. The Bengals got a future. They got to put together the offensive line. Burrow this is a learning experience. It's a good learning experience. It just affects them because you can't really get the playmakers going. You just don't have enough time for them to run their routes. You got to do quick stuff. It's just nothing you really can do. So good learning experience. I don't know what's going on with AJ Green. People think they can read his lips on the sideline. He just said, just trade me. It actually seems like what he said, but we don't really know the context of that. But yeah, interesting. But I don't know if he's just, I don't know. I don't know if he has that talent anymore. They have other talented guys. We'll see. That's a little messy. I don't know. We won't make too much of it right now. Jags and Texans. Thought it'd be a little closer, but I did expect the Texans to win this game. Even though they have no wins, they're just a better team, and maybe they're a little motivated with Bill O'Brien gone here. I've been talking about it, from square one. The Jags just small ball offense was very quick and hard to game plan against week one because it was quick. You didn't really have it week 1 and 2 because you just don't know what to expect, and all you got to do, I've been talking about, switch to more of a press man. That means you're tight in coverage. The quick passes won't be as quick because they're tight in coverage. You almost want to run a zone against this in college, but in NFL here, you're running press man. That's how you beat this, and that's exactly what teams have been doing. It's pretty much a dink and dunk offense. There's times where it was a little successful, and then they unleashed a surprising, not really deep, but a somewhat of a shot, and that worked out here and there, but everything's got to be going right for it to work, and that's kind of the Minshew offense. So, like I've kind of been saying for some time, I'm not really. It's not really it. It's not bad. It's close, but it's not it. It's not the answer. It's not the type of offense. So the Texans, good job by them, Cornell, and adjusting to that. But it's common sense stuff. It's common sense stuff. The Texans are getting a little more pass rush going. The last couple weeks, Merciless was very disappointing the first few weeks, but the last 2 weeks he's been a little better. So they're getting a little bit going there. But yeah, the Jags couldn't really just that offense. You couldn't really get anything going. There's really nothing. There's nothing extra or take over. They don't have the big impact. I like DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, but there's nothing that's gonna how do I put it? Help them adjust or just take over what's not working. It was a pretty poor 4th down call. Well, I put more blame on a 3rd down call. It was 3rd and short, and they threw a pass that is really on the line of scrimmage, and that's just their offense. It's just not going to cut it anymore. So it ends up being a 4th, and they got to go for it. 4th and 1, 4th and 2. They got James Robinson at quarterback, and it's a little bit of a problem, a fumble or mistake there, but that's just, I don't know. And the reason they did that is because they don't have it. They don't have that big play, that takeover play. It's just pretty much small ball, and they got to try to get cute, creative, and it kind of backfired on them. So the Jaguars just couldn't keep up in this game. The Texans, good to get the win. Brandon Cooks was fantastic. Finally, he was dominant in this game. Will Fuller was fantastic. Those guys just finding open lanes, using the speed that they have, making the big plays. That Will Fuller touchdown where he caught it going to the ground, tough catch, and then just pop. I don't know if I've seen a guy pop up that fast like that and just walked in the end zone then. That was ridiculous how fast. We know he's a fast dude, but how he just slammed the ground, popped up, and maybe hit the ground so hard that he kind of just bounced. It was ridiculous. So that was a big-time play. I thought Fells was pretty good as well. He was finding they were just finding open spots and coverages. Another thing that just doesn't have enough. The Jaguars' defense looks slow. I've been saying that for some weeks. There's not enough on this team yet. But it's disappointing, but it's kind of okay because it's a team that, there's other teams that you expect to have. Eagles, Vikings, a couple of Falcons, maybe not the Falcons. Teams that you expect to have way more. The Jaguars, you don't really expect it. They have a ton of draft picks. They have a ton of cap space, so it's really okay. Deshaun Watson, one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL, but I have been disappointed in him really this year. And he hit throws. He won the game. He racked up some yards, but those quarterbacks thing, you kind of got to find ways. The great quarterbacks got to find ways, and you found ways in this game, but still a little underwhelming. Had some bad interceptions. And I think the pressure getting to him is almost programmed in his mind at times. It seems like he thinks there's pressure on him when there's really not. Gets the ball, starts panicking, moving up, moving back. I don't like that. And I saw a lot of that in this game. But again, he got the job done. For overall, for the most part, he threw pretty well. Did escape pressure and make throws, but sometimes he's kind of escaping nothing, and he still makes a good play. And I think people go, wow, but he just panics early, and it looks crazier than it actually is. But so I want him to play a little better. I really do. I expect more from him, or I guess less of the mistakes, less of the panic. But he made plays. He got the ball, distributed the ball to his receivers. They were getting pretty open. I think David Johnson played pretty well. Almost get him more carries. I think he was playing pretty well. But yeah, they get their win. Like I said, it's good to get that win. They're a little more motivated. I think the defense with their pressure start to pick it up, but it's a game you expect them to play like this. So let's see if they can continue here. Next game, the Dolphins. Wow, what a game for them. 43-17. The Dolphins are that ultimate. There's a couple sneaky teams, but the Dolphins are that ultimate sneaky team that I think they can beat anybody. They can lose to anybody. I think it's probably there's a couple teams that we feel that's how they are. Dolphins might be that team, that definition of the team. They can shock you like this. I think Brian Flores is a great coach. It's a really good defense, better than you think. They game plan correctly. There's some really good blitz calls. Really like the blitz calls. Jerome Baker, I think similar to Fred Warner over there, just flying around the field, making big time plays. See him use him in the blitz. They're very high on him, and you can see why. So just making plays over the field. I think McCain, Howard, those guys coming up with some being playmakers, as expected. They just got a bunch of guys that fly around and a very good defensive mind in Brian Flores, good game plan, good, again, just good calls, good blitz calls, good coverages. It feels like they're in man at the right time. They're in zone at the right time. It's kind of what I gathered. Fitzpatrick, another guy, kind of goes along with this team could beat anybody, lose to anybody, just which Fitzpatrick is going to show up. Fitzmagic kind of showed up. He made the good throws, the big-time throws. He's a momentum changer. He can be a momentum changer. Parker, Press Williams, these guys stepping up. Gaskin stepping up. They got more playmakers than people realize, too. This team's definitely on the right track. I keep talking about they're still somewhere in the stages, I like to put it, of the rebuild, but they're nowhere near square one. But it's not complete yet. But they have the pieces there in most of the spots. There's not too many needs left in this team. So this team is a team of the future. I'm really excited about it. They have the right staff. They have the right pieces in place. A couple more. And they got the Texans first round pick. They got their first round pick. I'm really excited about this team. There's a lot to get. Even right now, there's a lot to get excited about. So, the Niners, pretty poor game. They are missing. They're missing a lot. They're missing a lot of defensive players, really everywhere. Mainly defensive, actually. Defensive players injured. So they are not at their full strength. But is that really the issue? If they're at full strength, do they win this game? I don't think they do. I still think they get beat, plain and simple. I think teams are starting to figure them out. I think I still think Shanahan's a good coach. I think teams are starting to figure them out. I think when teams are, Garoppolo looked good last year, but I know we were all a little hesitant. Is it more of the system? The offensive line looked pretty good last year, even though it's not great on paper. It's really good schemes, and now we're starting to see. I talked about in the offseason why I wasn't. The main reason I wasn't as high on the 49ers is, unfortunately, I think I was right on this. They have a lot of guys that can get injured, and they were healthier than expected last year, even though they were beat up. So, in a way, I was kind of cautious about that. But another thing, I was really predicting this offensive line to not be anywhere near as good as people thought it was. They added Trent Williams. I think that was kind of the disguise, the kind of the decoy there in people's minds. Obviously Trent Williams is really good, and I think people think they got him. This offensive line's elite. It's going to be really good. No, it was more of a scheme-based offensive line this year. They're really weak on paper in the interior. I've kind of been on board. I'm a Notre Dame guy, but McGlinchey, I think, is more on. I kind of said that since Notre Dame, too. He's pretty good run blocking, but I'm not really that high on him. And they have problems in the interior. This offensive line is nowhere near as good as people thought it would be. I feel I got to pat myself in the back a little bit. I feel like I've been calling that, and that really has nothing to do with the injuries there. They're not playing that great. The scheme is kind of getting figured out there. You can game plan around it. Brian Flores is a really good game planner. Garoppolo played terrible, and the excuse will be there, and maybe it's legitimate. I'm not here to saying it's just an excuse. It's wrong. I'm just saying it is an excuse, but it could be the same. It could be an excuse, and it could be legitimate at the same time. but it's going to be used that he is not full strength. He's hurt, and again, that might be right, but that's really no excuse to how he threw the ball. Just pretty poor quarterback play in general from the 49ers, what we've seen, and that's very disappointing, and pressure has been getting after him at unexpected times. And he has the playmaker still, the running backs, the receivers, he has them there still. Again, defense didn't play that good. Defense is mainly because of the injuries, I think. But the offense struggling and putting defense in bad situations and not just doing enough against a team that you're supposed to be better than really doesn't have too much to do with the injuries. So I think they lose. I think they get dominated this game even full strength. I really do. So credit to the Dolphins there. Niners should have won that game last week. Going into this game, you expect them to should have won, but how it played out, no chance. But it hurts. You know, it's a little disappointing there. But Dolphins, sneaky team. That's very impressive. Moving on to the next game, the Colts and the Browns, the game I thought was the game of the week, and it kind of was. Was really looking forward to teams proving something to me because both teams have looked insanely impressive, and I'm still impressed with both teams, but there was still something to prove to all of us. The Colts, in multiple ways, they had to prove things out. The defense has looked way better than expected, really good. They had to prove that they can do it against more of an offensive team because they haven't really done it against. I think the Vikings game is a little more impressive now, perhaps, but they need to impress us in terms of their resume, who they play more on the defense. But mainly, I was talking about last week, will this offense be able to keep up with other offenses? They've been able to coast, kind of be a game manager type offense, run the clock, rely on their defense. They've been able to do that. Will they be able to do that against a team like the Browns? And then for the Browns, the question was, will the offense be able to score on a better defense? And will the defense hold up against a better team? So kind of two questions for both teams. And the Browns get the job done here, and they kind of prove more that they're a little more impressive here. The Colts did have some major injuries. They did have some major injuries, and I shouldn't say that. I should say the Colts and the Browns had some major injuries because the Browns did have Nick Chubb, and they are a much better team with Nick Chubb. But first half, it looked like the Colts missed Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard, Anthony Costanzo, bigger name is Darius Leonard, but I was saying before the game, Anthony Costanzo will be missed more. First half, it looked like, even though Garrett was getting some pressure, it looked like Darius Leonard was missing a little more. Defense a little shaky. Baker Mayfield and company, they were making some big plays. These receivers were just outplaying the DBs. The DBs were in pretty good position for the most part. Early Landry was kind of leaking out and getting pretty open. Hooper as well. But for the most part, they were tight in coverage. In the first half, they were missing Leonard quite a bit. Not that I think it would have been that much different with Leonard, though. Great player. It would have been different, but I didn't really get the sense that it would be that much different. It was just Baker making some good tosses, risky, but some good tosses. The play calls were great, and receivers making big plays against defensive backs, not really a linebacker. Second half, it felt like defense stepped up. I think it was a lot of Baker kind of making some bad decisions, but late second half, that is. But they missed Anthony Costanzo. The pressure was getting there. Both Myles Garrett, Olivier Vernon. But again, the Colts are much better with these guys. But were those the reasons they lost this game? And I'm going to say no. Those guys missing were not the reasons they lost this game. So my point is, if those guys were playing, it's an assumption. They are better, but I still think they lose the game there. And again, the Browns are missing Nick Chubb as well. But this kind of goes. The offense needs to prove to all of us that they can keep up with the other good offenses and they can be more than a game manager. While doing that, can they keep control of the ball? And Phillip Rivers was on full display in this game. He was on full display when he had to play. He could not keep track, hold that ball. A little more pressure than he's used to on the Colts, but it wasn't. I think some people were making it seem like he was constantly hurried, and that just was not the case. He's seen much worse with the Chargers. There is, I think, 90% of quarterbacks in the league are pressured a lot more than that, or close to that. So he's just got to take care of the ball. I don't know. He just doesn't. He just lost a lot on his arm too. I think, and it almost is in his head too. So just Phillip Rivers on full display here, and it felt like the Browns were gonna just absolutely put this game away. And I was so impressed with Baker just making, the big time throws. They were risky plays with the big time throws, but just so smooth. Some of these play action plays just so quick. Get out there. I've been talking about this and make the play on the run, being able to move your legs and keeping defense on your toes. The play calling, different weapons. Who's gonna get the ball? Everything was so smooth. I was in love with this offense. But then Baker started making some rough throws and getting the team back in the game. The kickoff return, which was a great kickoff return, a bad play by the Browns special teams, it kind of let them back in the game when the game felt like it should be over. For sure. And I've been saying this is kind of an offense that, been great. The play call's been great, but it's the type of offense system that really it's tough for them to come back, but they definitely can allow teams back in the game. We've kind of seen that. But they get the job done here with most of their play in this game. The majority of the game, they definitely outplayed the Colts with their offense. And the defense stepped up, but I think it was really more Rivers making those big mistakes, there. But, yeah, I think the difference was really both quarterbacks made mistakes, but Phillip can't make the mistakes. But the difference could be the difference in playmakers. I think that was a huge difference. The Browns just having more playmakers getting the job done as well. I think that could be a big difference, just making the plays and the plays that can go either way. Colts defense still impressed with it though, but yeah, you could see if they play a better offense, if it's a little tougher test, going to look a little different there. The corners definitely can be beat by some good receivers or a good offense there, but yeah, it's a tough one. It's just kind of my storyline of that is Phillip Rivers on full display and the Browns playmakers kind of taking over and just being better, and that was really the difference. And they controlled early. It was a little back and forth real early. They kind of controlled the game. Oh yeah, going back to the first drive, Kareem Hunt fumble. I know people will complain about that a little bit, and that's a tough one, because I thought, Hunt was kind of just sitting in one spot on, it's time to blow the whistle, and the whistle may have been blown. So even though he was never down, the ball coughed up. But I understand that I'm pretty sure the whistle had to be blown because it kind of should be at that point. But they might have called it the runner was down or something. So I don't know. The refs kind of messed it up with that, but I'm not going to sit here and say the Colts should have had the ball. I just think the refs went about it wrong. So I don't know if that could have changed the game for sure, but I don't know if you can put it on that. But yeah, overall a good game. The Colts almost found a way to fight back there, but Phillip Rivers really can't get the job done. And that was my question last week. The defense was pretty impressive last week. But they were playing a struggling Bears offense there, at the time. So my question, I was tweeting about it, can they keep up? I like this defense, but can they keep up with the more high-powered offense? They're going to see a lot of them. There's a stretch of their schedule coming up soon, not quite this upcoming week, where they play more. It'll be a matchup similar to this. So can they figure it out? Hopefully they get fully healthy because they're definitely a better team with Darius Leonard and with Anthony Costanzo there. But the Browns at the same time are better with Nick Chubb. So that's a good game there. Baker, a little hurt at the end. He didn't look right, but he's got to play a little better at the end. But I'm very, very impressed the season as a whole earlier in this game. And somebody asked him, I like this. Somebody asked him that is he going to play with the rib injury, and he said, "Mama didn't raise no wuss." So I like that very much. Like Baker's attitude. Excited to watch both these teams going forward. They've been impressive. Giants and Cowboys. It's a game I really don't want to talk about too much because the storyline is pretty much Dak Prescott, and that just. It sucks. It sucks to see that. It hurt, just so unfortunate. I don't even know. It's just a sad moment there. A guy that gambled on himself, waiting, holding out the contract, going to get more, and that could affect him. Obviously it's not really a long-term injury, long-term in terms of this year, but career, and it's not really a long-term, but it can still affect him. He didn't get to go out and prove what he had to prove, and he had his, He had his two left tackles out. Leo Collins didn't play a single game, missed the whole year when he was expected to only miss 3. Tyrone Smith basically missing the whole year, only played a couple times. He's going to be out the rest of the year. So a tougher task for Dak, but more of an opportunity to impress, for sure. And he has been impressive for the most part. There has been some turnovers that you don't like, but overthrowing Zeke early in this game ended up being a pick 6. But, tough task, and he was out there to prove something. I think he would have got the job done. So it really sucks, really sucks. And he was fighting to keep in this game more of an offensive game once again for another Cowboys game. So it's unfortunate. Earlier in this game, I didn't like that interception. They were making some mistakes. Zeke wasn't running all that well early. Once Dak went out, Zeke kind of showed vintage Zeke, and I like that, but then I don't like that. Where is that the whole game, Almost Pollard is shiftier, almost a smarter runner at this point. It's weird to see. I think Pollard needs to get the ball more. That guy's a weapon. That guy's a freak. He needs to get the ball more. We see CeeDee Lamb, how good of a receiver he is, just gets open and makes plays after the catch. 11 targets, racked up the yards. He's dominating. He almost looks like, in a way, could be their number one target, their number one receiver. But Cooper definitely a threat. Each of them complement each other. They spread the field out for each other. Michael Gallup, though, making that crazy, crazy play. Once again, he's done that a couple times. Down the sideline, jump ball, getting his feet down, his body down, hands, control, instincts and knowledge when to go attack the ball. Great ball by Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton looked pretty good. Andy Dalton came in, looked pretty good. That's kind of the one good takeaway here. Good thing you signed Andy Dalton because it's one of the better backup quarterbacks in football. The problem why he wasn't being able to play to best his abilities was because offensive line with the Bengals. So you kind of looked in, if he got the chance to play for the Cowboys, he would be pretty good because he has the weapons, he has a really good offensive line, but the offensive line really is one of the worst in football right now because the two stud tackles are out. So that's pretty rough, but they do have the weapons here in Dallas. So for the wrong reasons, I guess I'm somewhat excited to see Dalton play. For the wrong reasons there, obviously, because we all want to see Dak. Just unfortunate. But the Cowboys clutch up, get the job done. The Giants, offense was able to move the ball. They had a lot of wide open plays, so plays that Daniel Jones should make. A pretty well called game offensively. Cowboys, a little back and forth with how the play calls were. It was really, really bad. It was pretty solid, but kind of doing the right things. But again, it feels like CeeDee Lamb is kind of the feature guy of their offense. The Giants, something I noticed, the problem with Daniel Jones with the fumbling, he can't hang on to the ball. That's first off. He's just a fumbler. He always will be. That's something that really doesn't get fixed. But something I noticed is he just instantly rolls to the right, which the blind side he gets hit, and then he fumbles the ball. So that plays a big part. Nothing going to his left, really. So he's kind of just the right guy. Made some throws in this game still. Not thrilled with him, but they made some plays. Defensively, they kind of had a meltdown there, but I don't expect too much from them. They're just a really good offense they're going against. More playmakers they can handle. They got pressure in this game, which caused that turnover early. They got some pressure here, but you almost expect more because this Cowboys offense line goes from one of the best to one of the worst with these two stud tackles out. So you almost expect more, but then again, they haven't built it to get more. They don't have the edge rushers. They haven't had them in some time. I think Lorenzo Carter got hurt at one point in this game, too. They just don't have it. They got to build it better. They got to build it better here. Wild game. I think Jalen Smith, even though it wasn't a great defensive game for the Cowboys in general, Jalen Smith heard the noise last week, a lot of bashing for him. And the reason he gets that, because you don't expect it from him. You expect him great play every week. And I think you heard that. He played a fantastic game this game. Fantastic, flying around the field, making big-time plays. It's the Jalen Smith we know and love. So good to see that. But mainly just a disappointing game in general, even though, I guess a lot of offense in this game. And then the game that made me, I don't know, just absolute pain here as a Vikings fan. Absolute pain. There's just so many of these losses in franchise history that is just choke games away. A game, plain and simple, they outplayed the Seahawks in this game. They outplayed a majority of this game. There was moments where the Seahawks, looked better than them. The Seahawks are better than them, mainly because of that guy, Russell Wilson, having guys like DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, even though he didn't do much with Chris Carson. But the plain and simple, the Vikings outplayed them in this game. That's a fact. There's no question. They outplayed them in this game, and they still lost. It's unfortunate. The Vikings game plan, when it works, it works. And when it doesn't, it really doesn't. It fails. And that's just to go in there and control the clock, run the clock. And if you get down early, it ends up being a disaster because they become one-dimensional. They're a pretty predictable team. When they come one-dimensional, it's harder for Kirk Cousins. He's pretty bad. But the game plan worked in this game. It worked. The Seahawks barely had any chances on offense. They weren't getting the job done on offense early. When they had chances, Russell Wilson wasn't getting the job done. The offensive line, the pressure was ridiculous from the Vikings, but they couldn't get in their groove. Every offense needs to get in their groove because they barely had any chances in the first half because the Vikings game plan, which it is every single week, worked, and that is run the clock. Move the ball, but more importantly, run the clock, which I kind of don't like because the main focus is get the goddamn ball in the end zone. And they were just more focused on running the clock. But you play the clock game, if you do it right, it works, and it worked, and they still lost the game. Dalvin Cook was fantastic in the first half. It's unfortunate he goes down. To me, we're talking running backs, like running the ball, just traits, running the ball. I think Dalvin Cook is the most talented running back in football, running the ball. Yeah, he can be involved in the pass game too. We see that, but then there's other guys that are better. But actually just running the ball, I think he is the most talented. He has the most traits at the top tier. But it's just that health. It's just that health that brings that down every time, and it's just unfortunate. It doesn't look to be anything serious. If they had him in this game, they would have won the game. They would have, plain and simple. They would have won the game. It may not even came down to that last play, which he would have got, or that last offense play for the Vikings, or I guess not last. They had another shot, if that's what you want to call that. But you know what I mean. So that was unfortunate, but he was explosive in the first half, breaking the tackles. You see the speed, the quickness, the ability to make guys miss. He was fantastic. Cousins kind of making throws when he had to in the first half, but getting field goals instead of touchdowns kind of hurt them in the end. Even though they're up 13-0 at halftime, they controlled the clock. I think a big problem was kind of field position. They started from their own end, I think, every single time. And I guess there was some flags kind of hurt them in that way. Yeah, there was some holding calls that really, really hurt them. Not that I'm saying I disagree with the calls. My one problem with holding is there's holding on every single play. So I dislike it. And there was a couple games I was talking about it this week. Thursday game as well. A couple games on Sunday. I don't like when there's all the holding calls are on one team and none are on the other team because there's holding on every play. But I do agree with the holding call. There were pretty bad holding calls, or pretty bad holdings on the Vikings, so they were the right call. But those were crucial. Those hurt them pretty bad. There's so many things that just hurt them. There were so many things that didn't go their way, but they still should have won the game. And that's kind of, I don't know. But yeah, they controlled the first half. They were getting some good pressure. We see James Lynch, the rookie out of Baylor. I liked him a lot. Love that draft pick. His first game, he gets a sack. Only plays 7 more snaps after that, or 6 more, whatever it was. I don't really agree with that. But was that going to make or break the game? That's just something I wanted to point out. In coverage, they were surprisingly tight in coverage. I think you got to give credit to their safeties, but their corners have been struggling a bit, but they were holding things down early. Just dominate. They absolutely dominated. The way they dominated the first half, the score should have been 21-0, somewhere around there. 20, I don't know. Not 13, but they still won the first half, dominating fashion. They're up 13-0. You should be able to control the game. Some disastrous moments in the second half, really starting with they get a stop right away too, so they keep it going. That was the time you expect the Seahawks to go score, So they're still playing, I think Dalvin Cook getting hurt. I mean, obviously, like I said, I think we all agree if Dalvin Cook stays in the game, they win the game. But my point here is that affected them. They have affected momentum because it started to go as a disaster. They couldn't tackle anymore. Seahawks were making big plays. Kirk Cousins had he had a fumble, interception, and a fumble. The interception was a bad throw because it was a wide open receiver. You need to keep it up. But it was more of a ridiculous play from KJ Wright. One that, he's lost a little athleticism the last few years, but one that, man, that was ridiculous. It was kind of a rare play, but wow, what a play. That one might have been the play of the game, even though people will look at it differently. If that doesn't happen, the Vikings probably win as well. So and then Kirk Cousins has that fumble. The Vikings offense line's a mess, but Cousins got to get the ball out. It feels like Cousins is there's so many ways I can put this, but I do wish they would have running the ball was the whole game. This goes to the whole game, but even earlier in the game, running the ball was working so well. But what you're supposed to be able to do on the Seahawks is pass the ball because the lack of pressure, and you can just get open. And you have Adam Thielen, you have Justin Jefferson. Every time they threw him the ball, every time the play was designed for that, they were pretty wide open, because they were just better than the secondary. But the Vikings weren't really doing that. You could have thrown the ball, and that would have got you more points. They were too focused on running the clock, which, again, it kind of worked, and running the ball was work. But if you would have thrown the ball a little more throughout this game, I think that was a big storyline here. I think you could have done more damage. So just too worried about running the clock. And but at the same time, Cousins, I think, needs to play better. Cousins has that underthrow that KJ Wright picks off. Other than that, there wasn't, fumbling the ball, but those end up being 2 fumbles because that last play of the game. But those were situations where I almost think every quarterback fumbles in those specific scenarios. So I don't blame him too much. Yeah, you wish he can move up in the pocket or something, but it's so quick. But that's kind of my problem with him. I've always been a believer, but not in the believer in the sense where I think he's going to go win a Super Bowl. I've never been that high. But I've always been like, he's an accurate quarterback. I think he's a pretty smart quarterback. He can make the big plays here and there. That's kind of what I mean about being a believer. But now it's really fading because he kind of makes those plays in good situations. Everything needs to be going well for him to be doing. When the run game's not working, when Dalvin Cook's out, it becomes harder. And it's going to be harder for every quarterback. But what splits up the great ones from the good ones or the average ones, is finding ways, being able to make plays. Another thing is, I've been stressing the fact that I believe that you need a quarterback that has to be able to move outside the pocket, throw on the run, and get run downfield in today's NFL. That's just what you need, and he doesn't really have that. So that's why I'm kind of moving on from Kirk Cousins, believing in that. I mean, I think he's got an arm. He's talented. He's had pretty good moments. He's had some good moments, but it's just not, to me, it's not really the answer. But the game's really not on him. It's a mixture of things, but yeah, he's got to be able to play better when things aren't going smoothly, kind of like a Russell Wilson. You don't really have to expect him to be Russell Wilson, but even though Russell Wilson really didn't play that good of a game, that's like a positive and a negative for the Seahawks. They didn't really play that good. Russell Wilson didn't play that great. He had some clutch throws, obviously, a fourth and goal throw, but they still won, so that's kind of the positive. Like, they can play better than that. They still won in a game where they probably should have lost, so it's kind of a positive and negative in a way. Where was I, though? I got too much to talk about in this game. Even with all those mistakes, the Vikings should have had the game. They still should have had the game. They kind of got things going again. They run the ball pretty well, even with Madison. Madison, pretty good backup running back, probably could start for some teams. People kind of getting them on him in that fourth down run. Yeah, Dalvin Cook would have had it, but it's fourth and short. You don't bounce the play out. That's a major no for running backs. Bounce it out. So some people getting on him for not bouncing it out. He still should have got the first down running where he ran. He went down a little easy, but I'm not getting on him anywhere near as much as everyone else is because you just don't bounce that out. Some guys will bounce it out, and sometimes it'll work, and sometimes it'll fail big time. It's just something you don't do. They're taught to just pound the ball there. Fourth and short. Second down and short, yes, you bounce it out, but that's just what they're taught to do. But that last drive for the Vikings, I guess second to last, but that drive to put the game away, as soon as I get the ball, I'm thinking, you score a touchdown, the game is over. Plain and simple. Was there 4 minutes I got the ball back? Something like that. You score a touchdown, the game, no matter how much time is still left, if you score in one play, the game is over. It is pretty much over. Maybe not 100%, but 99.9999, the game is over if you score a touchdown. But I watched the Vikings for so long. I know what they're about to do. They're about to worry about only the clock. And this is my problem, what nobody else is talking about. This is my problem with going for it on fourth down. Fast forward to the fourth down, I really don't have a problem with going for it. If it's up to me, I kick it, but I don't. It's not one of those wrong, end up being wrong, but it's not one of those because you've been running the ball. It's been working. And if you get the first down, you put the game away. So I understand that. I understand it, but here is the problem that no one's talking about. You go back to the start of the drive. The whole drive. You didn't pass the ball once. And that might be okay. Running's working, but the focus there was run the clock. If we get a field goal, we get a field goal. Run the damn clock. That is number one. Even though putting the ball in the end zone ends the game. Even though you can throw on the Seahawks, that's been proven. Even though Thielen and Justin Jefferson are getting open, that's been proven. Even though your running backs are doing good in the passing game, been proven. Forget all that. We're running the ball, running the clock. That means we're okay with the field goal. And that's Kubiak calling those plays. And I don't really agree with it. I would have thrown there, but it's another one of those things where it's okay. But then you get the fourth down, and Zimmer is the deciding factor on if they're going for it or not. Kubiak and Zimmer, not on the same page. Not on the same page at all. Kubiak called that drive like they were going to kick the field goal. Zimmer didn't want to kick the field goal. So they were not on the same page there. That's bad. And I'm almost I am at the point where Defensive coaches shouldn't be hired in the NFL anymore. It's an offensive league. You need to have the best at offense. To get the best at offense, you need to hire him as your head coach. The best aren't going to take that offense coordinator job. Zimmer's been a pretty good coach. He's a great defensive mind. You see the adjustments. Last year, they started out pretty bad on defense as well. They ended up number 6 defense, I think, at the end of the year. And it's because of the coaching on defense. They had some playmakers, but because of the schemes, the blitz packages he whipped up, we've seen it in this game. He's a genius defensive mind, absolute genius. But at this point, not really having control of the game over your coordinators, over what's going on in the game, making some poor decisions, not being involved in the offense, it's not a good look. He's not going to be fired. There's no shot. I'm not really necessarily saying that he should be, but it's just not the way the league's heading, and it's not good. That's a problem that they're on different pages. I think that if they would have thrown the ball even once there, they may have scored a touchdown because it was unexpected. And again, you can throw on the Seahawks. Your receivers are really good. Thielen with the footwork was ridiculous. Your tight ends, you weren't really using them a whole bunch, so you could have been unpredictable. They had Boone in, which the Vikings got good running backs. Boone's a really good running back 3. Probably could start for some teams. He had that really good run, which they were about to mark him short, but that would have been reviewed and been a first down because nobody touched him, and he slid for the first down. But a holding call on Brian O'Neill, who's their best offensive lineman, who also missed the block on the 4th down run. Pretty bad moment for him because he had that bad holding call, which I don't think he really needed to do. He just needed to keep the guy inside, and then he had the missed block, so that was crucial. If that holding doesn't happen, game over, and then they get back down there. Thielen gets an end around. Thielen is inches away from getting the first down. If he can get that, game is over. Even though a really good play by Thielen, I don't know if I agree with that call because they were fortunate that he broke a couple tackles to get that close. He's not a guy that you expect to break any tackles, and he did, and he still didn't get it. So I don't know if I agree with that call, even though it looked pretty good. And then if they got that, they would have won. If they would have passed the ball somewhere in there, they would have won. If Madison would have got a centimeter more, they would have won. If O'Neill, who always hits his block, would have hit his block, or if O'Neill didn't get the holding, they would have won. If they would have kicked the field goal, they probably would have won. If Kubiak and Zimmer wasn't on the same page, they would have won. If Cook didn't get hurt, they would have won. So this one hurts. This one hurts real bad. With all that, they can't choke this game away. But then we go to the defense, and I'm just ranting about the Vikings right now, so I apologize if anybody doesn't like it, but this needs to be said. And this is why everyone's complaining about Zimmer making that 4th down call, and he definitely deserves some blame there. But looking at defense, the defense played great. 1, 2, 3. We're on the 4th down, and it's playing great. And again, they force the coverage, forces Russell Wilson to make not the best throw at all, kind of a bad throw. A ball that, I'm going to say this. I don't think I can play at the NFL, so I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. But I have played corner. I would have made that play. I think a lot of you out there would have made that play. That's how it was. It was a simple, routine play, not a good throw. And Cameron Dantzler, I don't know where it was one of the worst cornerback plays I've ever seen, especially given the moment. It was one of the worst. That was game over right there. Free interception turned into a free, almost punt return for DK Metcalf. That's the way it looked. And that's where I knew the game was over. Pretty much Seahawks were going to go down and score, but the defense clutches up again, brings down the 4th and goal. And then again, Dantzler could not keep up with DK Metcalf. Anthony Harris, the free safety, a really good one that he is, steps up, perfect coverage on DK Metcalf, but an absolutely perfect throw by Russell Wilson. But even though it's perfect, it's still a very hard catch. DK has to make a diving grab, and you see how great DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson, that duo is, how great those two guys are. They pretty much end the game there, so that was fantastic. The Seahawks kind of clutching up, staying in the game, even though they got outplayed here. The last 2 weeks, they've looked pretty beatable. You kind of debate them in the top of the NFL and top of the NFC, but they've looked pretty beatable, kind of like the Chiefs this week. The Chiefs actually lost, though, difference. Those two teams the last 2 weeks looked pretty beatable, but they clutch up. Vikings actually had a shot. They had 2 timeouts. I actually thought they were going to get a chance at a field goal. I thought it was going to be a really, really long field goal, but I thought they were going to get an opportunity. They really should have gotten an opportunity. Honestly, I don't think that was a fumble. I'm not going to blame anything. The Vikings lost the game at that point. They choked the game away. I didn't think that was a fumble, but yeah, it's one that can go either way. Too much time probably came up the clock anyways. The Vikings handled that last drive pretty poorly. They had 2 timeouts. You're going to use them? You want to use those? So I don't really agree with that. Yeah, that one hurts. As a Vikings fan, I'd rather get blown out than lose like that any day of the week. Choke the game away? No chance. I'd rather get blown. Seahawks are the much better team. I wish they would have just blown us out. But the Vikings, of course, had to outplay them and still lose the game. That's unfortunate. It's a team. It's a good team. That's better than 1-4, honestly. But and that's unfortunate, really, because seeing at 1-4, the season's over. There's a lot more. There's a lot of teams that are just better. 2 of them in the division. They're just playing simple better, and you're 1-4. So you almost wish that at this point it's over. Just keep losing, but they won't, because they have talent on the team. And there's games like this they should win that they'll probably close out and win during the year, but it means nothing. Seahawks, it's huge to stay undefeated. It gets so much tougher to stay undefeated in a trap game like this, and they clutch up. They win the game there. So that one hurts me. I like the other Vikings fans there. But that's going to do it for the recap. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Smash that like button. We're going to have to shift our schedule a little bit this week. We'll kind of keep you updated mainly on that Twitter link in the description for that, but we have to shift our schedule because of the upload schedule because of the Tuesday night game there. But I know Power Rankings will be up instead of earlier on Tuesday. It'll be up earlier Wednesday because of the Tuesday night game, of course. Other videos we're still deciding on, so follow that Twitter. We'll keep you up to date. Appreciate everyone for watching. That's going to do it. Goodbye.